Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, the TV show. I want to thank our sponsors that help make the show happen, St. Vincent Hospital and Bank Hometown. Very happy to have with us on our second segment, Bill Wallace, the Executive Director, and Diane Giampa, who's the Board Chair of the Museum of Worcester, formerly known as the Worcester Historical Museum.
And formerly known as the Worcester Historical Society and the Society of Antiquity. We just can't make up our minds, apparently.
All right. Well, Bill, maybe we could start off. We've got something in common. The Chamber is celebrating its 150th anniversary, and the Museum of Worcester is celebrating its 150th anniversary, and with that, a rebranding and a new name.
You got it. It was 150 years ago. It was a great moment for Worcester. Worcester was on the upswing, and as business was changing and Worcester was becoming even more industrially successful, filled with people from everywhere, of course, there were a lot of people who were thinking, wow, we should capture our history. And of course, it's also the eve of the American Centennial. So they formed the Worcester Society of Antiquity on a cold night in January. We know how those go. Cold night in January.
Embrace the cold. That's what we say here on Chamber Exchange. Embrace the cold. Embrace the winter.
It's a cold night in January of 1875 that they came together and formed this organization. So, and here we are 150 years later as the keepers of the stories that make us Worcester.
Right. So Diane, with that, as the board chair, clearly preparation to celebrate the 150th, but what was kind of the conversation like and the rationale behind the name change?
Well, I think it's interesting that the Historical Museum has Museum of Worcester, has such a history. I grew up in Millbury. I grew up around Worcester. I went to Holy Cross. I went to Anna Maria. I don't think I ever went to the Historical Museum. So I think there's a lot of people in this area who don't realize what a gem this organization is. And I think trying to rebrand and making it a little bit more accessible and relatable to people was sort of the background for doing this. We want people to know that this is their museum. It's not a stuffy old look at a painting. I think a lot of people that go to the museum see themselves in the exhibits. And I think that changing the name and the branding kind of lends to that whole thing.
Right. And you talked about kind of access and people going and experiencing the museum, and it's kind of tangible, it's interactive, it's real, but access is important. And I think the McDonough family charitable fund has provided some assistance this year.
Very kindly responded to our request to make the museum available to everyone Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4. Our normal gallery hours are free to the public for the entire anniversary year. It's a wonderful gift, and it's a return in the spirit of the late Jean McDonough, who was very important to our board, that she wanted everyone to feel like it was their story and they should feel welcome. So it's a great opportunity for everybody to come in, and people are coming from everywhere and very excited to see their story in their museum. It's a little bit like going to a family party for a holiday. Come home and get all those stories that you're anxious to hear.
Well, it really kind of is, because if you go to the museum and you listen to people who are in there, they will say, "Oh my goodness, I remember that," or "Oh my goodness, there's my Uncle Jim," or what. I mean, it really is very relatable to people who are visiting, unlike traditional museums where it's very sort of separate. And I think that the new redesign and the accessibility, and of course the free admission now, make that all possible for people to really understand that we have this wonderful, wonderful repository of Worcester history very close to us. So.
Right.
And that they're all part of the story.
Yeah, that's...
In some way or other, every day we all make history.
Yep.
We're not just reading a textbook about somebody that we'll never meet,
we'll
never knew. These are the stories of the Make Us Worcester.
Every family story. And the McDonough Family Charitable Fund, very generous in a variety of ways, and that comes out of a very important and successful company here locally, Flexcon, and employs a lot of people. So a company that's doing well and gives back and treats its employees well. Yep. But Diane, you mentioned kind of the redesign. Maybe there was a Fuller Gallery. Maybe you want to give some details on the upgrade?
The Fuller Gallery was 20-something years old, and it was time for an upgrade to make it, as you said earlier, more interactive and more current and more tangible for people. So we spent 5 or 6 years really revisiting that story and coming up with a new means of sharing those stories with an anchor timeline that's about Worcester, and then a lot of things that people can relate to making. But what's even more important than those objects are the interactives. people can call out a story of a particular object or a person who worked in a business, or whether it was the owner or the guy that swept the floors. And because of the technology, we can bring it up to date. We can change it every day. It's
Right.
just a new computer chip. So it gives the museum enormous flexibility to add to those stories as people bring us new stories and say to us, oh, but you don't know about my Uncle Buck who made X, Y, or Z, or my grandmother who worked at St. Pierre during World War II, and I've got pictures, stories, and I want to be part of the shared community record. It's, as we always say, it's our city, and it's your museum.
Well, you just mentioned another great chamber member business, St. Pierre Jane there, so we appreciate that. But the Fuller Foundation, the Fuller family, also great supporters of a lot of important initiatives in the community as well.
They were very much part of that initial gallery effort and continue to be in the present, but there's also a lot of funding as we completed our $13.5 million capital campaign. There's additional funding from any number of local foundations and
Right.
families and businesses. This is a true community effort.
Right, right.
Well, and I think easy to raise money for because people see themselves in the museum.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really amazing. You talk about these companies that have really rich histories here in Worcester, and what a great place to go see that.
Right, and those companies and the employment opportunities they provide can change the trajectory of,
Yep.
of families
Absolutely.
and
Yep.
experiences as well. So we both, the Museum of Worcester and the Chamber, we're all excited about the 150th anniversary, but you're also helping facilitate an important date in Worcester history, the 175th anniversary of the first National Women's Rights Convention.
Right. In October of 1850, Worcester was the center of this great conversation about what was the future of women and what would their rights be in the United States. And that convention occurred at Brindley Hall, across from, people think it's Mechanics Hall, but it's really across the street at Brindley Hall, which is no longer there. But 25 years ago, some of us will remember that they celebrated the 150th. And this October 22nd and 23rd, we'll be revisiting that really important event, 175th anniversary, with symposiums, evening events, a recasting of the play Angels and Infidels that was created for the 150th. And along the way, there are films that are being presented the last Wednesday of every month at the Parkview Room near Elm Park. And we're also having a series of programs, for example, on I'm forgetting the date, March 17th. This is February. March
Patrick's
17th. St. Patrick's Day, I know. Doug Egerton, who just did a book on Thomas Wentworth Higginson, the great preacher from Worcester, who is part of the Black Regiment that leaves from Massachusetts. He's also a major figure in the women's rights effort. And Doug Egerton will be bringing us some new information about Worcester and its place in that effort as we lead up to that event in October.
In the Parkview Room at Cornerstone Bank.
Cornerstone Bank.
Across from Elm Park.
Yep.
The old telegraph and alarm building. I think it was
Telegraph,
the fire department.
exactly, it was the fire
Where
department.
the fire department would dispatch everything. And so that's part of the Worcester Women's History Project, which is also at the Museum
At the museum.
of Worcester.
The two organizations merged about a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Diane, with the 150, a lot of events, but we want to get people down to learn about their story, the Worcester story. If there are people out there who want to come, learn more, want to contribute to the effort, how do they?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did as part of this rebranding is we have a brand new website. So on the website, you can see all of our events. You can do some virtual tours, which is really neat. And you can contribute, you can donate. So all of our information is right there, but I would encourage people to go to the website because it's brand new and it reflects the new branding, which I think is amazing. We hired is he a college kid or?
No, he works at one of Tim's partners, Saint-Gobain,
Tim.
full time
Okay.
and has a side business.
I'm old, so everybody looks like a college kid to me. He just did an amazing job. We love the new logo. We love the new look, and the website reflects that. So all the information you can find is on the website. So I encourage people to
And
go
both
there.
of you are featuring the logo and on the new pins for
On
the
our
Museum
new
of
pins.
Worcester.
Yep.
I would
Museum
add
of
that the
Worcester.
website is worcesterhistory.org. It's still that. And one of the things that people can do there is a partnership project with the Chamber. They can read the 300th anniversary book and they can contribute
Yes.
to that story. They can add to that. So the partnerships continue in many ways.
Good
And we're also active on social media, on Facebook,
And
LinkedIn,
Instagram.
Twitter, X
Instagram.
now, Instagram. So yeah,
Good.
we're everywhere. So
All right.
I would encourage people. It really is a hidden gem. And I think that I've never seen anybody go into the museum and come out and say that was boring or that. I mean, you'll find something that you relate to definitely in there. It's really
Right.
great.
Our tagline is arrive interested, leave fascinated.
Yeah, I love that.
Arrive interested,
Leave
Leave
fascinated.
leave fascinated, and that will then bring you back for another visit.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, Bill Wallace, Executive Director, and Diane Giampa, Board Chair of the Museum of Worcester. Great to hear about
you.
the rebrand, the exciting stuff, and 150 years of celebrating Worcester history and stories.
These days, you've got your hands full in life. That's why we help you bank simply and securely with tools like Face ID and Touch ID. It's why we make it easy to make purchases on the go and get cash back while you're at it. Why we help you quickly deposit checks wherever you are. And it's why we lend a hand with sending and receiving money right from your phone. So even when you're on the move, you can manage your finances. Bank Hometown. Unlock your potential.